Mid lane Swain has been heavily outperforming support shortly after his mini rework, and is Mordekaiser Jungle the new sleeper OP pick of the patch? We've got this and much more to cover as we bring you guys up to speed with any new trends and adjustments to the 12.8 tier list, thanks to the help of our challenger players and tracking the most up-to-date stats. But before we get into it, be sure to check out Skill Capped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. One top laner moving up for mid-patch who's really come into her zone due to recent meta shifts is Kayle. The most played top laners throughout the majority of elos are Gangplank, Darius, Sion, and Mordekaiser. GP, Darius, and Mord were all buffed in recent patches, leading to spikes in their play rates, which is amazing for Kayle as she's decimating every single matchup. Kayle loves laning into champions who lack high mobility gap closers, so she can farm up much easier early on. We're also seeing a really nice build diversification going on for Kayle, as AD and AP are proving to be viable for 12.8. This makes blind picking Kayle way more reliable. AD build is a Kraken into Wit's End and Cyrilda's Grudge third, while the AP build consists of Nashor's Rush, followed by Riftmaker second and Rabadon's third. Overall, many positives for Kayle in recent patches, so she will be moving from S into OP for mid-patch. We all know how broken of a pick bot lane Lucian is right now, but what about solo lane Lucian? If you can remember back a while ago, Lethality Lucian with Summon Aerie was a hotly contested pick, and it's been making its way back into meta for the past few patches. Core build is Eclipse, followed by Manamune second and Cyrilda's Grudge third. Lucidity boots are a must as well, since Lethality Lucian is more focused around ability damage than consistently autoing. For runes, grab Summon Aerie to amplify your poke power and ability to one-shot targets with ultimate. Lucian top will be moving up one tier for 12.8, going from C into B. For the complete top lane tier list, it's Kayle, Quinn, Darius, and Shen as the highest value solo Q carries. Swain has not been looking too hot up in the top lane so far, but with Riot offering hotfix bugs and likely to follow up again in 12.9, that could change very quickly. Swain is struggling mightily against top laners who have high mobility like Irelia and Riven, so he's a pretty poor blind pick right now. Any champion who can easily dodge out on Swain E and then jump on him and deal consistent damage are going to win out more often than not. As a result, you'll find Swain in B tier for 12.8. One of the more sleeper OP top laners this patch as a result of her buffs is Sejuani, and she will be moving into A tier. We will have a full feature on how to play Sej top in tomorrow's video, so keep an eye out for that. The best low elo picks for top lane are Garen, Yorick, and Nasus. Mord, Fiora, and Darius are all amazing ban options for 12.8. Not only has Mordekaiser emerged as one of the best solo queue top laners, but his jungle presence cannot be ignored. In the higher elos, Mord can definitely get exploited by good junglers, but for the lower ranks, he's a monster pickup. The added movement speed on passive level 6 onwards helps Mord's skirmish power tremendously. You're actually going to run Ghost instead of Flash on Mord jungle so that you can stick onto targets extremely well. When performing ganks with Mord early on, don't be so eager on using E too quickly. If you can run right up to the enemy with the movement speed from Ghost, let the enemy burn Flash first and then throw E, your ganks are going to be very successful. The build for Mord jungle doesn't change much from the top lane, as you will grab a Riftmaker into Demonic Embrace second and Rylai's third. Best rune page is Conqueror with Triumph Tenacity and Last Stand, roll with Conditioning and Revitalize for secondaries. Mord will be a very respectable A tier jungler for 12.8, so if you're looking to spice up the champion pool, look no further. Poppy Jungle is another criminally underrated pick for 12.8, as her buffs have made her an even better counter pick. Poppy is seeing ridiculous results against Lee, Graves, and Kayn for 12.8, as her W does an exceptional job at shutting down all three. If those champions don't hard snowball the early game, you're going to nullify them extremely hard, especially now that Poppy W cooldown is even shorter. By running Predator as the keystone, you actually have some solid snowball power of your own, as you can zoom in behind the enemy and knock them into your team with E. As a situational counter, Poppy should not be disrespected in 12.8, as she finds a spot in the A tier. The upper echelon of jungle carries stays intact for mid-patch, with Rengar, Nocturne, Diana, Volley, and Kha'Zix leading the way. Fiddle could very well be slotting into the OP tier soon with any nerfs to the current OP picks, as his 12.8 buff has turned him into a premier jungle pick. One minor adjustment for mid-patch is moving Karthus up from B into A tier. The 12.7 Q damage buff to monsters has been more influential than expected, as any change that amplifies a power farming jungler's clear usually turns out more impactful than you'd think. Top 3 low elo junglers of the patch are Rammus, Volibear, and Shyvana. Kha'Zix, Diana, and Rengar are all really good ban options. If you're looking to play the new Swain in 12.8, his best role at the moment is mid lane. Top Swain struggles more due to the longer lane and mobility camps having more space to run him down, while mid being shorter means he's much less vulnerable. There are a bunch of builds going around right now, but Liandry's seems to be the most consistent for the majority of games. You can't go wrong with Conqueror as the keystone, however, Phase Rush does have a place in matchups where kiting around to dodge skill shots is of value. Swain mid will be flocking into A tier for mid patch. Mid lane tier list doesn't change a whole lot halfway through the patch, as Yasuo and Ahri are enjoying their OP tier slots. The Xerath buff has been very positive so far in 12.8, and like we mentioned in our pre-patch tier list, it's a change that is likely to be overlooked. Even though E-Stun was only buffed by 0.25 seconds, that extra bit of time can make or break you being able to follow with a W, Q, or ult charge, and can be the difference between finishing off a target or not. Xerath is super fun to play right now, with First Strike as the keystone, and as a result of his E-buffs, he's now one of the better mages. Use Xerath as a counter to shorter ranged mages like Veigar, Vex, or Victor, and you'll have a great time. The best low elo picks for mid lane are Veigar, Malz, and Annie. Top 3 bans for this patch are Zed, Yasuo, and Ahri. ADC meta has shifted drastically over the past few patches, and Xayah has been one of the picks moving down. In 12.7, Xayah was one of the most lethal marksmen, but those nerfs in 12.8 have put a dagger in her strength. Lethality build is now super weak, so if you're looking to play Xayah, crit is definitely the better option. Just based off statistics, in previous patches, Eclipse had around a 1% better win rate than Gale Force, but that has completely shifted for 12.8, with Gale Force users winning a whole 3% more than Eclipse. Even though crit is the better option now, Xayah is still much weaker even if you're building correctly, and will be an average B tier pickup moving forward. With the likes of Xayah and Jinx dropping down, a very consistent and reliable ADC in Misfortune has room to move up. MF has become indirectly stronger patch after patch, and is a very solid S tier pickup in 12.8. The lethality build is amazing for MF, as your abilities hit for massive damage, while one good ultimate is all it takes to shift a game in your favor. Something very important to keep in mind when playing lethality MF is to run Swifties instead of Greaves. Over 30% of MF players prioritize Greaves, but it's just not the play, as you would much rather have enhanced movement than attack speed. Lucian stands tall on the pedestal for yet another patch, while there are so many strong S-tier options that follow right in behind. Mage bot lane picks like Seraphine, Ziggs, Veigar, and Karthus are super free wins in games where your team is lacking AP, so choosing one to add to your champion pool is a great idea. Jhin is shot back up in power for 12.8 as a result of his buffs, and our analysts were highly considering moving Jhin back into OP. However, they still think that Lucian is a small cut above for the time being. Despite Jinx and Xayah being heavily nerfed this patch, they continue to be played at high rates, so unless they're the only champions you feel confident playing, it's time to look elsewhere, as there are many better S-tier options. Veigar, MF, and Ashe are a few of the most consistent bot lane carries to climb low elo the fastest. Vayne, Lucian, and Samira are on the top of the ban list for 12.8. Bard is looking like a super nice pick down in the support role thanks to his 12.8 buffs. Both changes were to spells that take no skill to use, so it's not much of a surprise to see Bard's solo queue win rate jump a few percentage points. If you can play a decent Bard, he should be high on your priority list this patch, as he's one of the best S-tier supports. We noted in the pre-patch tier list how the Soraka nerfs would likely only bring her back in line with other OP picks, and that's what's played out so far. Even with Moonstone being nerfed and Soraka receiving a direct nerf, she's still an OP support pick, so it just goes to show how insanely broken she was before. Ever since Riot decided to give Raka the Grievous Wounds removal on ultimate use, she's been one of the most free elo solo queue supports, and nothing changes in that regard for 12.8. One thing to consider changing with how you play Raka though is which mythic you rush each game. Due to those Moonstone nerfs along with Soraka W healing for less, a Shurelya's has indirectly started to outperform Moonstone. In games where you don't need any added peel power, then sticking with Moonstone is fine, but against heavy dive, consider Shurelya's from now on. The OP tier for support looks exactly the same as pre-patch, with Senna, Janna, Blitz, Soraka, and Renata Glask as the 5 best picks. One minor adjustment will be the shift of Xerath going from A into S. E's stun buff is proving to be very impactful for the champion in the support role, and with the lack of hard engaged supports being played in meta, Xerath fits in quite well. If you ban out Nautilus, things are pretty smooth sailing, as champs like Thresh and Leona are rarely picked in comparison to enchanters. As players become more comfortable on Renata, her win rate continues to rise each and every patch. We'd even go so far as saying Renata is the most OP support if piloted correctly for 12.8. She's definitely a little more difficult than the average support though, so expecting immediate results may leave you underwhelmed. Soraka, Nautilus, and Zyra are 3 of the most potent low elo supports. You can't go wrong with banning one of Renata, Glask, Soraka, or Senna. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about skill caps. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there's your update on the tier list as we reach the halfway point of 12.8. Good luck in solo queue, and we'll catch you in the next one.